Hi, welcome back to DSA Design series. So till now we have solved 4 questions, right? We have done 4 questions, but those questions were just to make you familiar with design topic. From now onwards, we are going to start the interview ask design problems. Okay, so let's start. Let's start. So today we have to design a browser history. Okay, you have a browser in one tab where you start on home page. When you create the object of this class, this constructor function will get called. This constructor function will tell you your home page. Okay, so you have a browser and you start on a home page. Okay, now from that home page you can visit another URL. So this visit function help us to visit another URL. Okay, now you can get back in history number of steps and you can move forward in history number of steps. So this function help us to move back in history and this function help us to move forward in history. Okay, so let's go to whiteboard and try to solve this question. Okay, so now we have to implement these 4 functions. Okay, we have to implement these 4 functions of browse history class, right? So I will try to implement it with the help of stat. You can also implement this class with the help of a vector, and you can also implement this with the help of a doubly linked list. Okay, so it is up to you. You can choose any data structure of your choice, but I will try to implement this with the help of a stack. Okay, let's see. Let's see. So this is the test case for which I will work. This is the test case. Okay, so let us create a stack. This is my stack, and I will name this stack. Let's say I will name it history. Okay, this is the name of my stack. So now what this stack represent? Now what my stack represent? Let me also write it down somewhere. The top value of my stack represent the current website which I have opened on my screen. The top value of my stack will tell me the website which I have currently opened on the screen. Okay, let's move forward. So first we are calling browser history. So whenever we create an object, the constructor gets called, right? The constructor gets called. Our constructor function also have a parameter, and we are sending a string, and its name is home page. Okay. So whenever the object is created, our constructor function tell us what is the current website which we have opened on our screen. Okay, this home page value tell us what is the current website which we have opened on our screen. So we have sent leadcode.com as a parameter of our constructor, right? So our homepage is what? Leadcode.com. It means we have currently opened leadcode.com in our screen. Okay. Now, if this is the website which we have currently opened, then this leadcode.com should be my top value, right? This should be my top value of my stack. So I will push leadcode.com in my history stack. Okay. So this is how you will implement the constructor function. You will simply push that homepage value in our history stack. Okay, done. Okay, let's move forward. Now we have done this query. Next is visit google.com. Okay, what this visit function do? It visits URL from the current page. It clears up all the forward history. Okay, let us just focus on this part for now. Okay, let us just focus on this part. We will understand this part later. Okay, we will understand this part later. So let's just focus on this part. Okay, we have to just focus on this part. It visits URL from the current page. Okay, it means I have currently opened leadcode.com on my screen, but now I want to visit what? Google.com. So now I'm opening google.com on my screen. So my top value will be google.com. Okay, so I've opened Google now. So Google will be my top value. So I've simply pushed Google on my screen. Right, I've simply pushed google.com on my history stack. Done. Okay, let's look into another query. Another query is what? Visit what? Facebook.com. We have done browser history. Visit this and this. Okay. Now we are visiting facebook.com. Again, same thing. I have to like, I have currently opened what, google.com. Now I want to open facebook.com. So I will simply push facebook.com in my stack. Facebook in my stack. So my current value, which I have opened on my, the current website which I have opened on my screen is what? Facebook.com, because it is my top value, right? Okay, next query is what? This is done. Next query is what? Visit youtube.com. Again, same. I will push YouTube on my stack. So currently I've opened youtube.com on my screen. Done. Okay. Okay, let's talk about this next query. We have to call this back function. We're calling this back function with parameter 1. Okay. So what does back function do? This back function moves steps back in history. Okay. So it moves steps back in history. We will talk about this part later. Okay, let's forget about this part. We will just focus on this part for now. Move steps back in history. And we are sending 1 in parameter. It means we have to move 1 step back in history, right? How can I move 1 step back in history? By simply popping out my current value. If I will pop out YouTube, what is my topmost value now? My topmost value is Facebook. It means I have currently opened Facebook on my screen. So I have moved 1 step back to history. Done. Okay. And of course, I also have to return Facebook here, right? I have to return Facebook here. So I will simply return facebook.com. Okay. I will simply return facebook.com. Okay. This is what you have to do for back function. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, this is done. Another back function. We have to call back one more time with parameter 1. Same thing. I will pop out Facebook. Now my top value is what? Google.com. So it means I have currently opened google.com on my screen. Okay. Done. I will return Google. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's move forward. Now I am calling this forward function. Okay. Now I'm calling this forward function with parameter what? 1. This forward function moves steps forward in history. Okay. We will talk about this part later. Okay, forget about this part. We will just focus on this part. This forward function helps us to move steps forward in history. Okay. Now I want to move forward. But can I move forward? Because I don't know what value we have here. Because there is no value here. I have lost the values. Because I popped out the values, so I've lost the values, right? So it means when I'm moving back in history, I have to store those values somewhere, right? Because the next query can be forward, move forward, but now I don't have values because I have lost all my values, right? So I have to store those values somewhere. Okay, so what we will do, let me go back, let me undo all the things. Okay, so now when we are calling this back function, we will not just only pop this value out. Okay, we will not just only pop out the top value, we will also store that value somewhere. Why? Just to keep the track of all the website which I have visited. Okay, so I will create one more stack here. I will name this stack forward. Okay, and I will pop out this YouTube from here. I will push it here. Done. So what is the website which I've currently opened on the screen? The website is facebook.com because it is my topmost value of my history stack. Okay. Now, again, I have to call this back function, right? I'm calling this back function and I want to move 1 step backward in the history. So again, I will pop one value from the stack. I will push it here. Okay. Now the website which I've currently opened on my screen is what? Google.com. Okay. Now I want to go, this is done, this is done. Now I want to call this forward function. This forward function help us to move steps forward in history, right? And how many steps we have to move forward? We have to move 1 step forward. Okay. How can I move 1 step forward? If I want to move 1 step forward, I will take out one value from here and I will push it back to my history stack. Okay. So I have pushed back Facebook. Okay. It means If this is my topmost value, it means now I have opened facebook.com on my screen. Okay. So now we have moved one step forward. So this is how you will move one step forward. Okay. Done. This is done. Again, we are calling visit. Now we are again calling visit. What website we want to visit? We want to visit linkedin.com. Okay. Now let us implement this part. Let us also implement this part. I want to call this visit function and I'm sending a parameter linkedin.com. Let's see what this visit function do. This visit function visits URL from the current page. Okay. It means we have that topmost value will be linkedin.com, right? It was simple, but it clears up all the forward history. This is the forward history we have, right? Because we are storing the forward history in a forward stack. And if I want to clear all my forward history, it means I have to clear up my stack, right? So I have cleared up my stack. Now my forward history is gone. Now, if question will ask me to move forward, I cannot move forward now because I don't have any forward history with me, right? And luckily, a next function is forward, right? So if I will call this forward function now, I want to move 2 steps forward. But can I move 2 steps forward? No, I cannot. I cannot even move 1 step forward, right? Okay, this is the part. This is the part we will talk about now. If you can only forward X steps in the history and steps are greater than X, you will forward only X steps. Return the current URL after forwarding at the history at most steps. Okay, what this means? This means, let's say, how many steps I can move forward in history? 0. And how many steps this query want me to move forward? This query want me to move 2 steps forward. This 0 is less than 2. It means query wants me to move 2 steps forward, but I can only move 0 steps forward. And if this is the case, in this case, I will only move the number of steps I can move forward. And the number of steps I can move forward is what? 0. So I will only move 0 steps forward. So it means, let's say I've moved 0 steps forward, right? So what is my topmost value? It will be LinkedIn, right? After moving 0 steps forward in history, what is my topmost value? It is linkedin.com. So I will simply return linkedin.com from here. Okay, this is how you will implement this forward function. Okay, let's call this back function. Let me erase this first. Yeah, let's call this back. This is done. Let's call this back function. So I want to move 2 steps back in history, right? How can I move 2 steps back in history? Take out value from here, push it here. 2 steps, right? So I will take out 2 values. LinkedIn. Okay, sorry for my writing. LinkedIn. Okay. And next is Facebook. 2 steps. Okay, LinkedIn and Facebook. Done. Okay. All right, what happened? Okay. It means we have moved 2 steps back in history. What is my topmost value of my history stack? The topmost value is Google. So it means I have to return google.com because we have currently opened google.com on a screen, right? So we will return google.com. Okay, done. This is also done. Let's talk about back. Okay, we are again calling back function. And now we want to move 7 steps backward. Okay, now we will talk about this part. Similar, like it is similar to the forward function. If we can only return X steps in the history and steps are greater than X, you will return only X steps. Return the current URL after moving back in history at most steps. Okay. So what is the most number of steps I can move back to history? I can only move back 1 step in history, right? I cannot empty my stack, right? Of course, I cannot empty my stack. I have to have like 1 value in my stack. So I can only move 1 step backward in history. So if I can only move 1 step backward in history, and the query wants me to move what? 7 steps. This 1 steps is less than 7, right? So if I can only move 1 step backward in history, and this number of steps I can move backward in history is less than the number of steps the query wants me to move backward in history, so I will simply move the at most steps I can move backward in history. So what is the most number of steps I can move backward in history? It is 1. So I will simply move 1 step backward in history. So I will take out Google from here. I will push it here and I will simply return leadcode.com because this is my topmost value. Okay, so this is how you will implement these 4 functions, right? So the explanation part is done. Now let's just code it. Okay, let's code it. Now we have to code it, right? So let's just create 2 stacks. Stack of type string. Let's name it history. Stack of type string. Let's name it forward history. Okay. Now in the constructor function, what we have to do, we have to simply push the home page value in our history stack, right? So I will simply push the value in my history stack. History.push what? Home page. Done. Now in the visit function, what we have to do? We have to do 2 things. We have to visit URL from the current page, and we also have to clear up the forward history, right? So what we do when we have to visit URL, we simply push that URL in our history stack, right? So history.push what? URL. Now we have to clear our forward history stack, right? So what we do, we will simply assign an empty stack to my forward history stack. So stack of type what? String. Done. This is how you assign an empty stack, right? Okay, now our forward history stack is cleared. Now we have to implement this back function. How many steps we want to go back in history? This number of steps, right? So let's run a while loop. Okay. For steps number of time, and there will be one more condition. And what is that condition? The condition will be something like this. Let's say we have a history stack here. Okay. We have few URLs with us, URL1, URL2, let's say URL3. The top value is what? URL3. Can I go back in history? Yes, I can. Yes, I can go back in history. Now I'm pointing to URL2. Can I go back in history? Yes, again, I can. I can go back in history. But now I'm pointing at URL1. Now can I go back in history? No, I cannot, because this is the only value I have. This is the only value I have, so I cannot go back in history. Okay, so this is where I have to stop. So this is my second condition. This while loop will only run if the history dot size is greater than 1. Otherwise, it will not run. Okay. Now what we have to do, we have to take out value from a history stack and we have to push it in a forward stack, right? So forward history, let me copy this. Forward history dot push what? History dot top, and we have to do history dot pop. Okay, done. And then what we have to return? We have to return the top value of the history. History dot top. This is what we have to return, right? Okay, done. Okay, let's try to implement this forward function. Okay, this is the number of steps I want to move forward in history, right? So I have to write a while loop which will run for steps number of times, right? And there will be one more condition, of course. What will be that condition? Let's see. So let's say we have 2 stacks, right? We have 2 stacks, stack number 1 and stack number 2. So let's name it. Of course, it is history and this is forward. Okay, we have URL1 here. We have 2 URLs here, URL2, URL3. Okay. Of course, the current website which is open on my screen is this, right? How many number of steps, how many maximum number of steps I can move forward in history? As you can see, I only have 2 elements in my forward stack. It means I can only move 2 number of steps forward in history, right? Okay, so this is the check which I have to write here. This while loop will run only when the number of steps is greater than 0 and what is the next condition? The forward, let me copy it, forward history dot size is greater than 0. Okay. If the forward history dot size is not greater than 0, we cannot run forward in history, right? Done. So what we have to do here, we have to take out value from our forward stack and push it in a history stack, right? So forward history, not forward history, history dot push what? Forward history dot top. Then what we have to do, forward history dot pop, right? Yes. And at the end, we have to return what? History dot top. Okay, so this is how you have to code it. Okay, let's run it. Okay, it is getting accepted. Let's submit it. Okay, it is getting submitted. Okay, so let's talk about the time complexity of the code, right? Time complexity and space complexity of the code. So of course, the space complexity is what? O of n. We are using 2 stacks, and let's say at most we are pushing n values at most. So the complexity will be O of n, right? Space complexity will be O of n. What about time complexity? The complexity for this construct function is of course O of 1. Complexity of this visit function is what? O of 1, right? The complexity of back and forward function is O of n, because in worst case, what we are doing? We are pushing value from one stack to another stack, right? So that's why in worst case, the complexity of this back and forward function will be O of n. So the complexity of both the function is O of n. Okay. So yeah, that's all about the time complexity and space complexity. So yes, we have successfully done the question. If you really like my explanation, please like and comment on this video, because your comment will really motivate me to make better videos. And yeah, thanks for watching, and keep coding to the next video.